Okay, I think it started. Okay, so just to reiterate just what this project is, this is for a sociology course, so 325 or creating social change. And essentially the project is reaching out to a individual from a particular category that was chosen for us by our professor. Our topic was unions or union leaders or staffers. This could be
Hmm.
current members or former members. And the goal really of the project is to kind of get a firsthand look at what unions particularly have an impact on regarding social change or creating social change. And so in this case, for a teachers union, it would apply to teachers and kind of being representative from a personal perspective in terms of meeting with
Sure.
youth. Um, so for this interview, we created 10 questions.
Okay.
They're sort of loaded, some of them aren't, but I'll kind of start off and then I sent out an email to Tyson and Joshua about which questions we were each going to ask you. But
Okay.
um, and you can answer how long as you want or as short as you want. If you have any questions about how the questions are worded, we'll try to
Okay.
re-explain it. But it
Well, you said they're loaded. Do I need to lock my door and close the vent? I mean, am I going to get in trouble? I mean, I don't
no,
know
no.
if you were following the news at the beginning of this year. Things were kind of interesting around here involving the union.
Yeah, but in terms of them being loaded, they're more kind of geared to kind of try to get as much information out of you as possible. But like I said, this isn't
Sure.
it's not a, we're not writing like a really strict research paper out of this. It's more just for us to get an idea about teachers' unions.
Okay.
But so the first question is going to be so essentially just you telling us a bit about yourself and what you did or do now within OFT 3939 and
Okay.
what does or did your job entail?
Sure. Um, so I began teaching at O'Fallon Township High School in 1997. It was not my first teaching position. I had been at Belleville West for 2 years previously, and then at Normal Community High School in Bloomington Normal for 4 years before that. So I actually began, and then actually my first teaching job was at Brown County High School in Mount Sterling, Illinois. I started that in January of 91, was there just for the semester. And so then at Normal Community, 91 to 95, at Belleville West, 95 to 97, and then started O'Fallon in 97 until present. I don't remember signing a union card or joining a union when I was at Mount Sterling. I do know that I did when I was at Normal Community High School, when I was at Belleville West, and I've been a member of the union here at O'Fallon since '97. It's the the membership part of it has changed a lot. I shouldn't say it's changed a lot. It's changed some since the court decision, and I'm sure you guys can recall the court decision quicker than I can about public unions, public service unions. It was about 10 years ago that the court said it was a First Amendment case that the court basically said the collecting of dues and using of those was not something unions could require. Used to be kind of a what was called fair share, that even if you didn't want to join the union, you had to pay your fair share of dues because you were benefiting from the representation and the support, the professional support that a union provided. That the court said they can't do that anymore. So I know I've always been a member of the union because I always see the money taken out of my paycheck each month in the form of dues. Interestingly, in 95, when I started at Belleville West, there was a strike. Did we go on? Did they go on? I think they did go on strike when I started at Belleville West. And then my first year here at O'Fallon was a negotiating year. And the negotiations literally went to, I think it was something like, I wasn't involved as a non-tenured teacher, but I heard stories that I think the negotiations went up to something like 2:30 in the morning on the day that school is supposed to start. So contract was signed, everyone walked in, faculty, staff, students on the first day of school. So I've always been a member of the teachers union. In, I think it was 2000, someone got the harebrained idea. One of my colleagues here at O'Fallon got the harebrained idea that I, despite really never having been involved in any sort of union activities, planning, or anything like that, would be a good person to be the president of the union. So going along with that harebrained idea, I said, sure, why not? I had been at different places, different professional experiences, and it's a democratic process. People are nominated, people decide whether they want to serve or not. And so I volunteered to run as union president and was union president from 2000 to 2006. I have not since then held any other positions of leadership in the union, elected or negotiating committee or anything like that. I felt I did my time. Let someone else carry the torch, because I think that kind of fulfills the idea of a union. It should be there are a large number of stakeholders and voices to be heard. So that's one of the reasons why I stepped back. And then my job sort of changed. Connor, as you know, I'm chair of the social studies department, and I started that position in 2009. So it wasn't too long after that I had been president of the union that I took on this additional professional responsibility. So when I was president of the union, I was involved in 2 contract negotiations, the 2000 contract, and then 3 years later in the 2003 contract, which was particularly intimidating in 2000 because I had never been involved in negotiations, never been involved in organizing a negotiating committee. But I had good people that I was working with, felt very supported. Both of those negotiations were productive. The delicate art of negotiations, there was some give and take. There were some tensions, obviously, with the administration and the district leadership. But ultimately, a settlement was reached in both 2003 and 2006. There was no job action taken, and we were back in school on day one. So that's sort of been my labor leader time. There were other things that I had to do. I don't know, Josh, Tyson, if you're from this area. Connor, I don't know if you remember, but it was in the early 2000s that O'Fallon was giving great thought to building a second high school. And there was a referendum I forget, actually, there were two referendums. One was not successful, the other was successful. But as president of the union during that time period, I was involved in collaborating and working with the district leadership and trying to generate community support and faculty support for the approval of those referendums. Those were both very time-consuming endeavors. I don't know when that actually was. Yeah, but it was early 2000s. The presidential years would have been 04.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if we aligned it with the presidential election the second time or if it was with the presidential primary. But somewhere along the line, 04 maybe was the successful one that led to the building and construction of the Milburn campus. And then it was just the year before that it was unsuccessful. So those would be, the three main big events that I was involved in, the union was involved in during my tenure from 2000 to 2006.
Okay, I think Josh Tyson, do you have the
Yeah.
you have the questions?
I have the next question.
Okay.
So, and you kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it again.
Okay.
This is kind of like a three-part question, kind of. So it is: what are unions? Why are they important? And why do they do what they do?
Well, you're asking an old United States history teacher. So I can give you obviously, the history, I would hope, being young, educated adults. You all know the history, obviously, of the labor movement. Not just here in the United States, but obviously that's what we're probably all mostly familiar with. But I think unions are a way, obviously, to collectively organize a labor force, to give strength to, give voice to professional labor issues and concerns. We live in a democracy where not only do we believe in majority rule, but we believe in minority rights. And it's often times hard for one individual, one voice to bring about effective social, economic, political change. So the idea of organizing the masses into a collective movement was an idea. I don't know when the first union was set up back in Great Britain with the period of industrialization, but you had the early labor movement here in the United States, the Wobblies, the Knights of Labor, the AFL, the CIO, late 19th century, early 20th century, organizing labor to improve working conditions and standards of living for that labor force in the United States at the time. So I think that labor unions still perform that function. As we went through the 20th century, labor union membership declined. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in that, and there always historically is kind of a reflection between economic opportunity or economic prosperity and union membership. They oftentimes diverge. Economic opportunity, prosperity goes up, union membership goes down in the long term, and vice versa. In times of economic crisis, political, social crisis, tensions, that's when you oftentimes see unions gaining strength, gaining numbers, gaining popularity. I mean, right now GM, is I guess they settled and they're voting. I think the UAW settled with Ford and Stellus, but I think some of that is a reflection of the last 25 years, most notably, and periods of the business cycle. We had the recession of the late 2010s, 2008, that recession, the housing market crash. You had the economic impact, social political impact of COVID. That may be contributing to some of the increased activity among unions. So I don't know if I've answered all three of those parts. I think I've answered two of them. What was the third one, if I haven't touched on it?
I think
you basically did. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't. My thing was not loading. But yeah, you basically did cover
Okay.
what the question was asking. But the next question following up is, how do you see your work relating to creating social change? In what ways does your work address or impact diversity and social justice? And then finally, what are the concerns?
Well, let's do them one at a time.
Yeah. It's kind
So
of
the first one was what?
How do you see your work relating to creating social change?
And so by work, you mean work within
Union.
the union, or you
Yes.
mean teacher work?
Union.
Well, yeah, I think I did I mentioned that. I mean, I think I did mention, answer that. I mean, I think what unions do is bring together a group collectively to work on and address issues. I think primarily those have been economic issues or economic concerns. Wages, working conditions, number of hours that people work are the classic, union issues, union topics. So I think that those have resulted, unions have contributed to that. I think a lot of people talk about how unions helped contribute to the growth of the middle class in our country's history. I think that is a very valid statement or conclusion. Workers getting their fair share of the economic pie, and with that, greater economic power, greater political influence. And I think that has resulted in obviously some social changes, economic changes, improved living conditions, education, any number of different areas. And what's the second one?
I think you answered it. I'll just go ahead and go to my question.
Sorry.
So you already talked about a little bit with your career pathway, about you jumping from different schools and everything. But what made you want to become a teacher, and like what prepared you for it, and why did you choose it, pretty much, and what led you to being the union leader? I think you mentioned someone volunteered you for it almost.
Yeah. Well, the easy answer for why I wanted to become a teacher is genetics, because I have a large family tree of teachers.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. I've got parents who are teachers, grandparents, aunts, uncles. And on my wife's side, I have in-laws that were teachers. My in-laws are a little bit older than me. So when I talked about or considered being a teacher, I saw it as a meaningful and valuable profession, rather than, a lot of people complaining about teachers and, they only work, 8 to 3, and they only work 9 months out of the year, and they get all their summers off. What a cush job. That sort of attitude was not that wouldn't have been tolerated in my household, and family functions. So I saw teaching as a worthy profession, unlike maybe some. I had teachers in high school that I still consider to be mentors. Mr. Terry Cox was my U.S. history teacher. I would say he had a great deal of influence on what I wanted to be or what I became when I grew up. I had a math teacher, my algebra teacher freshman year, was someone who almost led me astray down the pathway of becoming a math teacher rather than a social studies teacher. But I held true. So there was that experience. And I didn't go to the University of Illinois as an education major. I went as a poli-sci major with an econ minor, and it was after my sophomore year that I really decided that being a teacher is what I wanted to do. I think one of the qualities that a teacher must have is a desire to want to continue to learn, and continuing to learn is something I believe about myself. And so, what did I want to be when I grew up? I can't spell. Connor can probably attest to it. So English teacher.
I feel you on that.
I knew I was in trouble in chemistry on day one when I couldn't balance equations. So that was out. So like I said, math teacher, social studies teacher. I went the social studies route because that was something I was always interested in, enjoyed learning about. And I just had a hard time figuring out how it was that I was going to be able to continue to make the Pythagorean theorem interesting to students for an entire teaching career. And to myself, right? I'm a social studies teacher. I teach our law-related education course. The law is always changing. There's court cases that always are new. Social studies is the study, and history is the study of what is, not what wasn't. So I'm just a social studies teacher because I think if I can help students better understand, or young adults better understand the world they live in and the world that they will hopefully contribute in a productive way, then I go home and give myself a gold star each day.
Yeah, I have sisters who are teachers too, so definitely, and family, so it all runs in the family.
Don't speak ill of sisters or teachers. That'll get you in trouble, Josh.
I have all sisters. Yeah. I'm the only boy and the baby, so. But going back to your time as the union president, did you enjoy doing it? And was there any frustrations that you had, or more rewarding things that happened to you during your time as the union?
Well, it's been a while. And as we get older, we like to reflect and ponder upon our younger days fondly. No, I would say I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the leadership position it gave me. I think it helped prepare me for the position I currently have as chair of the social studies department. I think the challenging thing for me was the conduct and behavior of some of my colleagues. the O'Fallon Teachers Union is affiliated with the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. There's another large teacher union organization called the NEA, the National Educators Association. The O'Fallon Teachers Union is affiliated with the IFT, the AFT, the Illinois Federation of Teachers, the American Federation of Teachers.
Okay.
And so when there are professional disagreements, where there are labor issues, labor problems, we have the ability to call upon a regional, state, national support network. And so it was a way for me to also see beyond the four walls of O'Fallon Township High School, see how some of the educational issues that we were confronting as an institution were either similar to or different than what other schools were going through. But when issues came up regarding, like I said, labor issues, conflicts, things like that, negotiations, there was a professional staff. The IFT has offices actually in Fairview Heights. But I wasn't sitting by myself across the table from our district superintendent, board members, their attorney. I had a professional support network with me. I mean, I was by election, by choice, to be the voice of the membership. But with me, I had other faculty members on that negotiating committee. I also had the support of a union representative from the IFT. And they were more familiar with labor law, contract law, negotiations, arbitration, mediation than I ever was. And so working with them, I think, gave me greater insight into the profession of teaching as well.
All right.
Tyson got it. Tyson. Let me see the next question here. So,
Hello?
Yeah, are you there, Tyson?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Can I be heard now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can move off to the next question, which is another long-winded one, but I'm just going to shorten it. What would you say are the best practices for unions?
Well, I mean, a teachers union, from my experience, both as a position of leadership and as a member, a teachers union is a little bit different than, and this may be sort of my naive perception because I've never worked on an assembly line at GM. But I think the teachers union is a little bit different than a quote unquote labor union. That's not to say that we don't have labor disagreements and disputes. I think one of the difficulties, right? That's what you asked, the difficulties?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the difficulties, and I kind of referenced this earlier, the performance and the conduct of some of my colleagues. The guy's name was Lee Wilson. He was our IFT rep that we worked with during negotiations and issues from, I think, 2000 to 2004 or 5 or something like that. And he said, you can't defend the indefensible. As much as you would like to protect the job and protect the professional choices that membership has made, when they do something stupid, stupid is as stupid does, there's not much you can do. So that was always a challenge when those issues came up. And it's not like they came up, every day, every week, every month, but they would come up occasionally, and you would just have to sort of scratch your head. Now, the opposite is true as well. The administration and our district leadership, I would say, tried to do some kind of stupid things. And when they did, we felt it was necessary, both during my tenure and beyond that time, to kind of say to the administration, whoa, no, that's not right. That's not correct. That's not in the best interest of students. That's not in the best interest of our membership. That's not in the best interest of our community. Let's see if we can talk about this. And so those discussions were sometimes difficult to have with membership or have with the district leadership. But I guess at the end of the day, the idea is to make sure that the building is open at 8 o'clock and it closes down at 3 o'clock, and students are provided with a valuable and meaningful educational experience, because that's why we're here. I mean, our output can't be measured in the same way as a worker on the GM assembly line, right? We can't count how many bolts we tightened, how many parts we installed in a car. I look at a measure of my work by hearing from Connor and being a resource and him feeling comfortable. I mean, my statement is to kids as they leave is, once a student, always a student. And I'm glad that, Connor feels comfortable enough. We've talked on a couple of different occasions on various topics. And on one hand, I'm disappointed that he's chosen another path than education, because I think he would have made a great teacher, and it still might. That door is never shut. But on one hand, the fact that his experience here at O'Fallon and at Edwardsville is something that has led him in a direction that he gets both personal and professional satisfaction. I mean, I'd like to think that I had maybe just a small part in that. I may be wrong. I just may be, someone who he had in his Rolodex of names and just figured, I'll just contact Bussy. Bussy never says no. That won't be a problem. But I don't know. Yeah.
Just a little bit influence.
That's awesome. So second part to this question is, what advice would you personally give from your own experience for those who maybe want to get involved in unions or start their own or creating social change, and how to be effective at that?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's not something that a member of the general public can walk up, knock on the door and say, I'd like to join the O'Fallon Teachers Union, right? I mean, so, I think it's been amazing to see, in different industries over the last 5 or 10 years, whether it be Starbucks or Amazon, right? That have individuals have taken it upon themselves to try and organize those workplaces and those labor forces. So I think anytime that a person enters the workforce, I think there's an opportunity to try and organize, collaborate, to bring about hopefully positive social, political, economic change. I would say, no one's going to tell you no. I alluded to the fact that the beginning of our school year was kind of interesting because we came back to school. We had a contract that had expired. We did some informational things to inform the public about the fact that in the community about the fact we didn't have a contract. The union leadership was, I don't want to say begging, but asking for anyone and everyone to get involved in some way, shape, or form. And for some, what they felt comfortable doing was showing up in mass at a school board meeting to demonstrate our solidarity and position on the issues. Other people took on social media campaigns to kind of inform the public. Thankfully, it didn't get to any sort of job action of having to go on strike. The contract was negotiated, the contract was settled. But I think that if you find yourself in a workplace where there is disgruntled employees, I think that creates the opportunity. It's not going to be easy because obviously management prefers to not to have collective bargaining. It serves their interest because the more they have to pay their workers, that's less money that's going in Ronald McDonald's pocket, right? The more they have to spend on improving working conditions, that's less money that goes into their pocket or their shareholders' pockets. It won't be easy, but I think that there's always, if you go to some place where there is a recognized labor organization, they will take you, they will use you in support of their cause. If there's not, I think that chances are you're probably not the only one who's disappointed with the fact that you are making less than $15 an hour. That was a big thing 5 years ago, the $15 minimum wage. And I think because of some organizing and also because of, more difficult, challenging labor market and economic conditions, the $15 minimum wage is something that, is more widely a part of, our workforce and labor. So